Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Porch. Hope you are all doing well. Been a while since we've uploaded on this channel, but reason for that, I have been uploading more and been more part of the Blitz. I've promoted it a little bit in the past, so if you want to go support that, see what I'm doing with my co-host Sam Daring, go ahead and check that out. I'll leave links to that into the description below. We just got finished the other night doing rounds picks 1 through 16 in the NFL, doing a live mock draft, and we'll be back at it again this Friday doing some more. So with that housekeeping out of the way, this video we will be doing my mock draft to start off, I guess, my draft season. Even though it is a little late, we are getting closer to the start of the NFL draft. It's a little over a week away at this point, so I figured this is about as good a time as any to release a mock draft. So this mock is going to be for the first round only. A couple disclaimers before we start. I am no draft wizard. I'm not a guru, anything like that. I'm not a master of schemes and systems, but I did try my best. I tried to look at what each team may want or may need, and I just went from there. Another quick disclaimer, there are no trades involved in this. This is just a straight up bare bones mock draft. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This first pick, probably the easiest one to make. This is Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've already given him the playbook, which I think is about as big of an indicator as you can get that a guy is going to the team. He truly is the best quarterback prospect in this class. His combination of size, arm talent, accuracy, a high level of play for 3 years as a starter at Clemson, just everything with that combined, he deserves the title of being the best prospect since Andrew Luck when you look at it from that lens. So that's where I would go with the first pick, along with where the Jags are going with the first pick as well. Also forgot to mention, this will be a what I would do mock draft at each spot, not what I think they're going to do. So you're not going to see Mac Jones at number 3 for the 49ers, no matter how much smoke screening Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch do for that pick. So let's go ahead and move on to pick number 2 with the New York Jets. I've got Zach Wilson going here from BYU. His arm talent, his off-platform ability to make throws, absolutely ridiculous. He is probably the best passer in the class, I would say. Everything about him just screams generational talent. He's up there with Lawrence. I would say the gap between him and Lawrence is smaller than the gap between him and Fields. That's how highly I think of Zach Wilson, and how highly I think the Jets think of Zach Wilson as well, as now they've gotten rid of Darnold, so this really isn't even a consideration anymore. These two picks are pretty locked in. And then at number 3 with the 49ers now, you do have Justin Fields at this spot for me. I know there's been a lot of talk about Mac Jones and him potentially going here, but I think that with Jimmy G still on the roster, it makes sense to bring in a guy like Justin Fields, who he does have a little bit of an issue with his processing. I think the whole first read thing is a little blown out of proportion, but I do think that those concerns are real about his processing, his arm. Sometimes, I know Dan Orlovsky had a thing where he was talking about his arm motion. I don't really buy into that because it seems to be working for him, especially on some of those deep back shoulder fades we've seen him throw. Very good at that end of the field. And I think if he goes to the spot, he could potentially have the best success out of anybody in this class because, well, as we know, anybody who goes to Kyle Shanahan's team, if he has a healthy quarterback, they're winning a Super Bowl pretty much, or they're at least going to the Super Bowl. So I've got Justin Fields going to this spot at number 3. At number 4 for the Falcons, this is a spot I could see them trading down at. It's not as likely now, I don't think, but this is a spot where you could see them try to move down, get some more draft capital. They just restructured Matt Ryan's contract, so he is locked in there for 2 more years with like a $40 million cap hit for each year. So There's no getting rid of him. I think they're pretty locked into him. And the 49ers, frankly, don't feel like a team who wants to rebuild or wants to do a full-on rebuild. So I don't think they're going quarterback here. I think if they do pick somebody, it'll be Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. He is just otherworldly. Comps to him I've seen is a better Mike Gesicki, and I think that's a pretty good comp. He's not like a true tight end. He can line up at wide receiver. He can line up at tight end. He can do anything you want, really. He is a generational tight end prospect. An amazing player, Kyle Pitts, for the Atlanta Falcons. Moving on then to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 5. There's been a lot of discourse about this pick. I've seen it go one of two ways, and I think both these ways are fine, but I'll talk about the one that I wouldn't do first. If they did it, I wouldn't hate the pick, but it's not what I am going to do here. So at this spot, I've seen Jamar Chase, and while I don't hate the pick, I actually like bringing him back with Joe Burrow. They would have a lot of chemistry there. As is expected, with Burrow and him linking up in 2019 for what I think is the best, college quarterback season we've ever seen. You've also got now Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase as your three guys. The two outsides, your true X with Chase, T. Higgins as the other outside guy, Tyler Boyd in the slot. That's automatically a top 10 wide receiver core in year one, let alone the strides that Chase and Higgins are going to make further upon that. But they need line help. Simply put, Jonah Williams is coming off of an ACL tear. He did not play last year very much, so we don't know what he looks like. So why not go ahead and grab the best tackle in this class, Penei Sewell, athletic freak. He's just a monster. And I said this in a rant video. I don't remember when exactly that was. It was whenever Joe Burrow got hurt towards ACL. I made a rant video. I'll put the link to it in the description. Somewhere you can go watch it. And I said if the Bengals don't draft Penei Sewell with this pick, or whenever they were picking, because we didn't know the draft order back then they were making a mistake. So they got to protect Joe Burrow. They can't let what happened last year happen again. So at number 6 now for the Miami Dolphins, you're probably expecting me to take Jamar Chase here. I'm going to buck the trend a little bit. I think the first wide receiver off the board is going to be Devontae Smith, and I don't disagree with it, because I think in Devontae Smith, you are getting the third best wide receiver prospect in this class, which isn't bad. I would say Jalen Waddle and especially Jamar Chase are better prospects than him, but here's why I can see them taking him here. So they've got currently, they just brought in Will Fuller, and you still got Devontae Parker. Those guys are going to be on the outside, guaranteed, and both of them are kind of perimeter deep threat guys, especially Will Fuller. And if you're drafting, a guy like Waddle, that's sort of already taking that deep threat role. So Jalen Waddle is automatically out of the conversation there. So now we've got Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith. Here's why I would take Devontae Smith. You've got Tua as your quarterback there, and we're starting to sort of get into that area where you want to see Tua be able to prove that he is the guy going forward in Miami. So we want to get him all the help we can to eliminate any excuses we have for him doing bad. And this, for me, is giving him Devontae Smith, a receiver who has the best release in the class, who has the best separation out of any wide receiver in this class. He simply gets open even at his smaller 175-pound frame. And he played with Tua already, so they've got the chemistry there. This is kind of similar to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, if that were to happen, except being on the Dolphins. And he can line up in the slot for you as well if you need him too. So I'm going to go with Devontae Smith at number 6 with Miami. I know Miami fans might not like that. They'd rather prefer Jamar Chase. I just think Devontae is a better fit overall for Miami than Jamar Chase would be, even if Chase is a better talent. So then next, at number 7 with the Lions, I'm going to take Chase here. Their number 1 guy on their depth chart right now is like Quintez Cephas, I think, or something like that. That's not a guy who, even though I love the Badgers, I love Quintez Cephas. You can't have him as your number 1 receiver. They need to go out and get a guy who's tough, who kind of fits in with this mantra of the kneecap biters and the toughness that comes along with a spot like Detroit and Dan Campbell. So Jamar Chase fits that bill for me. Best wide receiver prospect in this class, even with him opting out in 2020. If anything, that helps him because now he's got less tread on his tires. He can play longer. So then at number 8 for Carolina, for a long time this was Trey Lance at this spot. Not anymore because they just traded for Sam Darnold. So why not get Darnold help? We don't want him seeing any more ghosts in Carolina. So we're going to go ahead and draft Rashawn Slater. He can play tackle. He can play guard if you need him to for anything that happens there. Bottom line is we want to protect Sam Darnold at all costs and see what he's got still, frankly. A lot of these teams with young quarterbacks, the best thing you can do is worry about the offense and focus on the offense. The defense will come later. Carolina is not in a position to be winning right now. They are, I don't want to say far from it, but they remind me of the Dolphins from 2 years ago, where they're not quite there. This pick is going to help them get there and really show the true colors of Darnold and what he can do in the blue and black. So then we move on to the Broncos, and they kind of get a break here because for a while it was really worrisome that they were going to have to trade up to get a quarterback just to compete with Drew Lock. Because I do think Drew Lock's kind of iffy. Last year was a really terrible year for Drew Lock and just the Broncos in general. Granted, they were missing a lot of guys with injuries. So we're going to go ahead and draft Trey Lance here. Simply put, Trey Lance has all the potential in the world. He just doesn't have enough on film. He hasn't shown enough on film. Playing for North Dakota State, who ran the ball a lot. They played one freaking game this year. So there's not a lot to see of Trey Lance, but the physical traits are there. Pretty mobile, pretty good arm. This is a good landing spot for him, if anything, to just light a fire underneath Drew Lock's ass. Even if you have Trey Lance holding the tablet for another year or two, that's valuable time for him just to sit there in Denver. And then at number 10 for the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to be taking Patrick Surtain from Alabama, the cornerback. The Cowboys need secondary help. Last year was really apparent, especially in that Seahawks game. I remember watching that, getting shredded alive by Russell Wilson. Get someone on the other side of, is it Diggs they have there, I think? Another Alabama cornerback, weirdly enough. So you've got him, and then Surtain, who can be your true alpha, number one corner, shutdown corner there for the Dallas Cowboys. This is like one of the locks of the draft, I feel like. So you've got pick 1 and pick 2 of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. After that, I would say this is another lock of a pick. Pat Surtain to the Cowboys at number 10. Then the Giants at number 11. We're going to go ahead and take Jalen Waddle here. I know that we do still have Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. They just signed Kenny Galladay. But Jalen Waddle can give them more. I think that Shepard is fine in the slot. And Slayton is, well, he's good. I think that Waddle is your best opportunity to really make sure that Daniel Jones is the right option going forward. Give him no excuses. I think defense is fine. They could go edge, but I think that they're okay to wait. This edge class is pretty deep this year. There's not really it's not very top heavy. It's like the opposite, I would say. It's more of like an iceberg, I guess. of an edge class, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go Jalen Waddle here. Make sure we shore up that offense and give Daniel Jones no more excuses. This is your make it or break it year for Daniel Jones, and if not, then we can kick him to the curb next year or whatever's going to happen there. So number 12 to the Eagles. We were really looking for wide receiver at this spot. I think Waddle or Smith, if either of those guys were here, would have been the pick, but they're simply not. So instead, we're going to go ahead and get a linebacker in Micah Parsons, who has been falling a little bit, I guess a lot. He was at one point like a top 5 pick in this draft. I think that's more just down to positional value more than anything, because even this, I don't want to say it's too rich for my taste, but it is pretty high, I think, for Micah Parsons, just because he is a linebacker at the end of the day. But you're getting a solid prospect, an athletic freak in Micah Parsons, who hopefully can fill the linebacker void that the Eagles do have. If they don't go this option, you can always look at a corner, which we'll get to a little later with different teams. So then number 13, the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to go ahead and grab Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Athletically speaking, he is a freaky guy to watch. His pass protection is very good, which is what we need for Justin Herbert. We need someone on the other side of Brian Bulaga. This is your blind side right here. One concern, he did play down to his competition a lot, but I think once he gets at the NFL level, he's going to have to adjust to that level of competition. From there, we move on to the Minnesota Vikings. This was actually a really tough pick for me. I was really stuck between going the edge spot or going offensive line, because I know the Vikings haven't had the best of offensive lines in the past couple of years, but I just think with how terrible their defense was last year, especially the run defense, they gave up over 130 yards per game, which was in the bottom 10 of the league. So we need a guy who's going to come in, who's going to be able to give us some pass rush, give us a little bit of run stopping. And that's Kwity Paye out of Michigan. He's my first edge off the board here. I just really like his fit at Minnesota, being able to stop the run a little bit. Needs a little work with technique in terms of pass rushing, but if anyone's going to be able to get that out of him, it's going to be Mike Zimmer and the Minnesota defense. So at number 15 for the New England Patriots, we're going to take Mac Jones out of Alabama. I comp him to Tom Brady. Simply put, his processor is very good. That's something that I think is underrated with Mac Jones. I still think Mac Jones is underrated as a whole. While he's not the most mobile guy in the world, his pocket presence is very good. He often makes the right reads. He is very similar to Tom Brady. And while he is a high floor, low ceiling type of guy, that's all the Patriots are really asking for. You know, if they can get 5 cheap years of quarterback play, that's good. I think Bill Belichick can work out the rest of it. With this offense, he's going to be playing in a very similar system to Alabama. He's going to be able to dink and dunk, and Belichick might find that he likes the little bit of added arm strength that comes with Mac Jones, just compared to Tom Brady a little bit, and especially Cam Newton, just because he's getting up there in age. Number 16, one of my best fits in the draft, J.C. Horn going to the Cardinals, cornerback from South Carolina. This dude plays press coverage better than anybody else in the class. You could argue between him and Surtain, but I think it's Horn. He plays like he's on rabies. The dude is all over the place, super physical, has a couple penalty problems, but he'll get those out of the way here. The Cards just lost Trey Kirkpatrick as well as Patrick Peterson. They did bring in Malcolm Butler, but he seems more of like a Band-Aid guy to me. So you bring in J.C. Horn, super high energy guy who's going to just feed off of Budda Baker, and that secondary is going to be scary. Then, number 17 for the Raiders. This is another spot where I kind of struggled a little bit. The Raiders had a really weird offseason where they brought some guys in, but they let Trent Brown walk in the offensive line, and we got to replace that spot. So we're going to bring in Tevin Jenkins here, another super high energy guy who just flies around the field when you watch him. He might be the best run blocker in this class. Just an absolute monster on the field. I believe Brett Coleman called him Brian Bulaga on rabies. So that's some pretty high praise from Brett. If you haven't checked out his stuff, he is the best football channel on YouTube, if I'm being honest. His stuff is absolutely excellent. Anyway, Tevin Jenkins replacing Trent Brown seems like a pretty good move to me. Then at number 18, we have the Dolphins. And I wasn't sure where to go with this pick. You know, we did draft wide receiver earlier. I was thinking about potentially offensive line, but I like the edge spot here better. We did lose Kyle Van Noy to the Patriots. They released him, I believe. So let's get another 3-4 offensive linebacker in here with the highest upside of anyone in this class, and that being Jalen Phillips. And he fell simply because of the injury history, and that is something to look at. You know, he had the concussion issues, and he was forced to retire by UCLA, and then goes to Miami, and he balls out last year. So on tape, he is the best edge in the class. It's just going to be a question of the injuries and all of that going forward. But I think this is a nice landing spot for him because I think he is a first-round talent, although I think he's just a lower first-round talent just because of those injuries. But I could see him, I think this is his best landing spot, be able to play as a 3-4 offensive linebacker edge in this Flores, Belichick, Vrabel, whatever you want to call it, system. So then the football team, I also looked at linebacker here, but at the end of the day, I went with offensive line. So we're going to take Elijah Vera Tucker, the first guard, off of the board. He did play tackle last year for USC, but he's simply just better as a guard, projects better as a guard, and that's where I think he'll play. Really just shoring up the line there at Washington. I think the defense is fine for now. You could keep adding to it if you wanted to, but I think there's got to be a certain point where we start looking at the offense a little more in Washington. And I think that with Fitzpatrick there, why not protect him a little better? Because he's not the most mobile of guys. So Elijah Vera Tucker landing number 19 to the football team. Next up, the Chicago Bears. This was an interesting spot to try to mock for because, I mean, they've got holes. Frankly put, they lost Kyle Fuller in free agency. Offensive tackle is getting iffy. And wide receiver, they tagged Allen Robinson, and Anthony Miller is probably on his way out, if not by the trade deadline, next year for sure. So those were all options to look at, but I ended up going with tackle here. Samuel Cosmi out of Texas. Athletically speaking, best tackle in this class. He's got super upside. Just a great player. And he's very battle-tested, which I think the Bears are looking for because the Bears don't think that they're ever in rebuilding mode, even though they've kind of been in a rebuild for the past 3 or 4 years. Ever since that 2018 season, really, they've sort of lost the luster for me. So we're going to take Sam Cosmi here. Really give, who's their quarterback now? Is it still Nick Foles? Andy Dalton. That's right. So we're going to give Andy Dalton some protection here and make sure he doesn't get hit and go out, and we have to bring in Nick Foles or whoever their quarterbacks are in this team. I don't know, dude. The Bears are a mess. As a Packer fan, very nice to be their siblings up north. We've kind of been bullying them for the past 2 years, plus that, excluding that 2018 season. The Colts are up next at number 21. Another kind of weird spot. They've got a good team here. They did bring in Carson Wentz. They don't necessarily have any big holes, I would say. So I looked at their depth charts, and I think corner is the spot they should go here. There haven't been a lot off the board, and I think they're going to dry up here in the next 10 picks, at least like the top level ones. So we're going to take a risk here, and we're going to take Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. For those of you who don't know, he's got some injury stuff that's had him slide down the board. If he didn't have that, he would be considered up there with Pat Surtain and J.C. Horn as one of the best corners in this class. He might be the best corner in this class besides Surtain, but it's just a question of that injury, which from what I've heard, there's like an 80% chance that he comes back and is fine. But there's also a 20% chance that the back issues really bug with him the rest of his career. It's the same thing Tony Romo had at the end of his career. And Tony Romo didn't have to press wide receivers all the time and get physical with wide receivers and come down on running plays and tackle running backs. So there are concerns there with the injuries, but otherwise Farley has as much upside in this class as anyone, and he can play man or zone. He can kind of do anything. The Titans next up, pretty easy pick. They lost Adoree Jackson in free agency. They lost Malcolm Butler to free agency. Let's go ahead and bring another guy in. I know that they did bring in a different corner to sort of band-aid it, but I think you got to bring in a guy like Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. He's got the best hips in this class, super fluid player. He's just a great fit here for Tennessee, and they need the help at corner. Nothing much else to say about this one. So 23, we've got the Jets, and with Robert Saleh coming in, we've got Zach Wilson already. Let's build on this defense a little more, and we're going to take Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, who I think Robert Saleh is just going to love to be able to coach up. We know that he loves his pass rush, as we saw with the 49ers, so Rousseau is going to fit right in here. Athletic freak. He's like 6'7" or 6'8", something crazy like that. And he doesn't have a lot of tape. His freshman tape was kind of sloppy and raw, but he was a freshman. Like, what do you expect out of that? So this is a great landing spot for him. He's going to get a lot of great mentorship under the likes of Robert Saleh. Number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've seen Najee Harris here. I've seen ETN here. I don't think that's the right route to go, because before you get your running back you've got to get the offensive line right. And especially with a guy like Big Ben, who for some godforsaken reason is still here this year, we're going to have to protect him. We know that he's not a mobile quarterback. He's a rock back there. So we're going to go ahead and draft Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. I know he does have injury concerns, but the Steelers have been battling that for years, if we're being honest. So we got to replace, the line there. Villanueva, I think, is considering retirement if he hasn't already. Pouncey retired. So, yeah, we need to get somebody in here to help out. This might be a little rich, but I think based just off of need alone, this is the spot that Dickerson goes. Number 25, the Jaguars. I've seen this mocked a couple of places. That franchise guy, he's mocked him here a lot. I'm going to as well. Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State. And I'm not necessarily drafting him because of the value, because this is a little rich. But we're drafting him because we're not going to be able to get him in the second round. And because, frankly, they lost the tight end sweepstakes in free agency. They could have gotten Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. They both went to the Patriots. And this is a big need for this team. So I'm okay with them reaching a little bit here to get a guy of necessity who's not going to be available for the rest of this draft. He is easily the second best tight end behind Kyle Pitts, who's just kind of in a league of his own. Number 26, the Cleveland Browns. They got to go defense here. The offense is dynamite. We got OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Peoples-Jones, Rashad Higgins, even I think David Njoku is here, Austin Hooper, Baker and that line are solid. We're looking good on offense. Let's get some help at the linebacker spot in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. You can call him a linebacker. You can call him a safety, whatever you want. This dude is amazing in coverage, And especially in this AFC North division that has Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, you can make the argument even for Ben still. We got to get some guys who can cover, and Owusu-Koramoah certainly can do that. Then at 27, the Baltimore Ravens are going to get one of the better fits in the draft here with Rashad Bateman. So you've got Hollywood Brown as your deep threat receiver. Let's unlock the middle of the field a little more for Lamar Jackson. Get him a slot guy who can just go to work. Super good route runner. Just a perfect fit here for the Ravens. One of my best fits of the class, along with guys like J.C. Horn from earlier going to the Cardinals. This would be a slam dunk pick for the Ravens if he falls to them, as he has in my draft. So then the Saints at number 28. This was another kind of hard choice to make. There were a lot of different directions we can go in, simply because of the fact that the Saints lost Drew Brees, right? We could look at quarterback. I think we can wait till the second round for that, just because of the guys who are off the board, even third round if you want. So let's go ahead and get this defense right. They did lose Quan Alexander in free agency. They do still have Demario Davis, and Zach Bond from last year, but let's really just make sure with this linebacking group and get Zaven Collins, athletic freak out of Tulsa. He's going to fit in there just nicely, and I think that if Bond develops and continues his development, this will be one of the best linebacking groups in the NFL, and I think this is great value for him too, right around where I would take him. Number 29, my Green Bay Packers. So we've got some needs. Wide receiver, people have been saying, but I think to pass up on the opportunity of getting a corner here is just, I think we need one. Kevin King can't be second on the depth chart anymore. I understand the signing because, having corner depth isn't a bad thing, especially in today's NFL where you're already playing 3 corners, 3 safeties on the field at one time. So let's go ahead and bring in Asante Samuel Jr. to be across from Jair Alexander. Then we can kick Kevin King to the curb or keep him as a depth piece. But I really like Asante Samuel. He can operate as your outside boundary man corner, and he's going to be fine there. And he can even kick into slot corner if he doesn't work out there. He's just a good man defender. And I really like the fit here for the Packers. Then at 30 for the Buffalo Bills. As I was saying earlier, I think the offense is fine, kind of like how I said with the Browns. So let's get some pass rush in there. The defense wasn't quite up to snuff. AJ Epinesa has been kind of okay. So let's go ahead and get an established rusher in this class, Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. He doesn't have the highest upside in the world. He has no bend whatsoever. He's kind of just a stiff plank when he goes at people, but he's a good fit here. The Bills don't want to waste their time trying to develop guys, at least with their first-round picks. So Azeez Ojulari is the high floor, kind of low ceiling guy, at least to me, when I see him at this spot. So get some more pass rush in there in the AFC East. So at 31, the Kansas City Chiefs, we have to go tackle here. We cut Eric Fisher. That made sense. He got hurt, getting pretty old. But we also cut Mitchell Schwartz, which was intriguing to me. I was a little shocked, honestly, when they cut Schwartz, but I think they did have cap issues. So that made sense. So we're gonna get Dylan Raduns out of North Dakota State. He's just athletic. He's going to be able to kick out, do those screen plays the Chiefs love to run. He's got experience, which the Chiefs are going to love as well. Overall, just a really good fit here. Is it the best spot to draft him? Maybe not. Could he go in the top of the second round? Yeah. Is he going to be available to the Chiefs, though, at their spot? No. So I like the value here. I like the fit a lot. Just with how athletic Raduns can be. And he can really help Kansas City sort of recoup the tackle losses they had. Because we saw what happened in the Super Bowl when you go up against a good pass rush and you don't have your 2 starting tackles. Bad things happen. And then my last pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This team is set. Like, they already have everything they could ever need. But there are questions about the pass rush. Just in terms of how long it's going to stick around. Mainly Ndamukong Suh. He is getting up there in age. I'm not sure what the contract looks like, but why not, give Todd Bowles another weapon to work with, and that is Christian Barmore out of Alabama, the first defensive interior lineman off the board here. I really like the value, especially. He is a mid-first round talent, I believe, but just with how the draft has worked out and team needs, he really falls in a perfect spot here with the Bucs at number 32. I like him to replace Suh after Suh is gone, if or whenever that may be. Until then, he can rotate into this defensive interior, or he could even play alongside Suh with Vita Vea. So I really like the fit here. A lot of people were saying QB at the spot. Kellen Mond was one I saw a lot. Kyle Trask even, which, get out of here. I could see like Kellen Mond. I even saw the dude from Stanford here. Don't even get me started on that one. But I like the value here for Christian Barmore. I think this is a fall by his standards, but an expected fall. So that's the end of this one. Pretty long video, but I guess this could be considered as like an IOU type thing from the lack of uploads. What'd you think of your team's draft? Did you like the picks that I made? Love them, hate them. What did you think of them? Leave them in the comments below. Make sure you like this video to never miss another NFL upload, as well as subscribing. And let's have a talk in the comments section, just talking about the draft, where you think guys are going to go. I want to hear your thoughts, especially on this. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.